been a lot of noise this week, again, about what a president can do in a crisis. Some say the Constitution gives sweeping authority, and others warn we're watching executive overreach unfold in real time. Let's pause all that and just read the document, because Article 2, the part of the Constitution that defines the presidency, lays out what the office is and what it isn't. So today we'll talk and we'll walk through what Article 2 actually allows in moments of emergency, what history and the courts have said about it, and what you should be watching for the remainder of 2025. Because executive power is never abstract. It's shaped every time by law and precedent and how closely the public is paying attention. Let's begin with the actual text. Article 2 opens with, "The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America." That sounds broad, and in some ways it is, but it's not unlimited. The President is named Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. They have the power to make treaties with Senate approval, to appoint judges and ambassadors, and to grant pardons except in cases of impeachment. And crucially, to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. That last clause is often misunderstood. It doesn't mean the president gets to interpret or make laws. It means the president must carry out the laws Congress has passed faithfully. There's no phrase in Article 2 that says emergency powers, nothing about martial law, and no authority to suspend or bypass the Constitution. So where do emergency powers even come from? Well, they come from Congress through statutes and from court decisions that interpret how far a president can go and when. One of the clearest tests of presidential power came during the Korean War. In 1952, President Truman tried to seize control of private steel mills to prevent a labor strike. He argued it was necessary to support the war effort. The case, Youngstown Sheet and Tube Company v. Sawyer, went to the Supreme Court, and the court said no. Justice Robert Jackson gave us a 3-part test that's still used today. Category 1. When the president acts with Congress, power is at its maximum. Category 2. When Congress is silent, there's a gray area. In Category 3, when the president acts against Congress, power is at its weakest. But history isn't always restrictive. During the Civil War, President Lincoln ordered a blockade of southern ports before Congress had officially even declared war. In the prize cases, the court upheld it. They reasoned that when armed conflict has already broken out, the president has some power to respond, even if Congress hasn't acted yet. And still, that's not a blank check. The court emphasized the reality of war, not the president's sole judgment. More recently, in Hamdi v. Rumsfeld, the court ruled that even in a war, a U.S. citizen detained as an enemy combatant has a right to due process. Justice O'Connor wrote that a state of war is not a blank check for the president. So what we see in precedent is this. Presidential power rises when backed by Congress. It gets murkier when acting alone, and when acting against Congress, courts tend to push back. Let's clear up a few common myths. First, that the president has emergency powers under the Constitution. That's not how it works. There is no general emergency powers clause in Article 2. Instead, presidents can act through statutes passed by Congress, like the National Emergencies Act, the Defense Production Act, or the Insurrection Act. And those come with rules. Take the Insurrection Act. It allows the president to deploy military forces domestically, but only in narrow cases, like suppressing rebellion, enforcing federal law, or when a state requests help. But even that has limits. The Posse Comitatus Act restricts using the military to enforce civilian law. The Insurrection Act is an exception, not a free pass. Or consider the Defense Production Act. It gives the president authority to prioritize contracts and allocate resources, especially during national defense emergencies. But it doesn't allow the government to take over private industry without strict findings and procedures. And what about martial law? That term isn't defined in the Constitution. And Supreme Court cases like Ex parte Milligan have made clear the military cannot try civilians if civilian courts are open. There is no broad power to suspend civil liberties by declaration. Finally, the pardon power. Yes, it is very broad, but it only applies to federal crimes. It can't be used to pardon future offenses. And whether a president can self-pardon has never been tested in court, and remains a contested legal question that we might find out the answer to soon. So how does all of this play out in the real decisions of 2025? Well, first, legal theory starts inside the executive branch. The Office of Legal Counsel, or OLC, writes opinions that guide what a president thinks they're allowed to do. And those opinions don't bind the courts, but they tell us how the president is interpreting their own powers. Congress plays a huge role. If Congress authorizes or funds a policy, it often pushes the president's power into Category 1, strongest ground. If Congress pushes back or tries to block the action, we're back in Category 3, weakest ground. The courts act fast in emergencies. Temporary restraining orders, or TROs, can block executive action within hours. And don't forget the states. Governors, state attorneys general, and even local governments can file suit or refuse to cooperate. We've seen that in immigration cases, or civil rights conflicts, and pandemic-era enforcement. And finally, don't confuse words with law. A press conference isn't an executive order. A tweet isn't a statute. Real authority flows through documents, like memos, filings, orders, not just speeches. So if you want to understand where presidential power is headed, here's what you want to look for. New national emergency declarations. Each one unlocks a network of statutory authorities. OLC opinions. These internal legal memos shape how far the White House is willing to go. And executive orders. Pay attention to what legal sources they cite. Article 2, a specific statute, any at all? And federal lawsuits. If an executive action triggers a lawsuit within 24 to 48 hours, it's likely controversial and consequential. And agency rules marked interim final, that means they take effect immediately, skipping the usual public comment process. And personnel shifts. Who leads DOJ, DHS, OLC, and the White House counsel's office can affect how far the president pushes their Article 2 powers and how fast. And war powers letters. These 48-hour reports are required if U.S. forces are introduced into hostilities. If they're delayed or skipped, that's a red flag. And all of these are signals. You just need to know where to look. Before we carry on, I want to take a moment to thank Sam, who dedicated this video to their college roommate, someone who they say not only brought the good times, but always was looking for ways to strengthen their local community, something I try to talk about a lot recently. And Sam says that their college roommate was doing this even at a young age, so kudos to you. It took me a long time. If you would like to dedicate a future episode, just head to the link in my bio or the one that's on screen here, and you'll see how to do it. It helps keep this work going. So thank you, Sam. Article 2 doesn't give the president unlimited power. It gives the president specific responsibilities, bounded by law and shaped by precedent, and designed to work in tension with other branches. In a crisis, that tension doesn't vanish. In fact, it matters more than ever. The founders didn't want a passive president, or an all-powerful one for that matter. They built a system where energy in the executive had to be matched by accountability. So the next time someone says the president can do whatever they want in an emergency, maybe even the president will say that, you will know better. Because what the president can do is written down, and what they can't is up to us to defend.